just press that. There you go. Yeah, so thank you so much for your time. Do you want to start with introducing yourself and maybe talk a little bit about your current role?
Yeah, sure. So, quick introduction. My name is Paulina Castrellon. I am a first generation Latina and I currently work in aerospace. I'm sorry if you hear some noise. I have my little dog here. But I work currently at Lockheed Martin Aeronautics Division in the aerospace world. So, as an environmental health safety specialist senior engineer, it's a wonderful opportunity because in aerospace right now, we're booming, we're growing, we have so many great innovations and great ideas of working with different engineers. And aerospace is something that I just recently started. And like I mentioned, it's growing, and the environmental health and safety world is growing too. It's something I'm very excited to talk about with all of you guys today.
Awesome. So going down that road, do you want to talk a little bit about what environmental health and safety engineering is? Because
Yeah,
it's
so,
not one of the typical
oh, yeah.
engineering. Yeah.
No, most definitely. I know when I was in a university, I didn't even know what environmental health and safety was. I, to be honest, I didn't even know what the term STEM was. I didn't even really go into university thinking I was going to be a STEM major. Again, as a first generation Latina, I didn't have anyone in my family who were STEM majors. I just figured I got to go to college, something my mom and dad told me to do, and I went in with communications and journalism thinking I'd travel the world, I'm going to eat all this food, I'll be on TV, and just be done in 4 years, right? That's how college is supposed to be. Wrong. I took an elective, like most undergraduate students, which was called Environmental Occupational Health. And instantly I fell in love with this course. I've always loved math and science, and I really liked medicine. I always thought, oh, I could be a doctor or I could be an engineer, but I didn't come from a household that really gave me that push because I didn't see that representation. There was nobody that looked like me or nobody within my community, my neighborhood that did it. So I didn't think it was possible, right? And so when I took this course, EOH, again, public health from an environmental occupational health standpoint, our role, our job as the EHS engineer is to protect the environment, to protect the employee's health from all different types of hazards. So essentially, my job is to go into the most dangerous situations and make it safe. A perfect example, what I'll use this scenario I like to explain, and this can be put in any situation, construction, aerospace, chemical, you name it. And we'll start with, for example, planes. When I'm building a plane in a neighborhood community makes a lot of sound. It's a lot of sound barrier booms, boom lifts. There's a lot of noise that comes with that. Well, those large sounds are affecting the communities. As an EHS engineer, it's my job to do reports, to do surveys, to do noise reports. How can we work on the noise reduction, elimination, and process of that with the planes? Also, from an environmental standpoint, we're also working with jet fuel. What do you do with the jet fuel? How do you dispose of the jet fuel? What happens if you smell jet fuel? What happens if all the neighborhoods around are getting dropped with jet fuel? Do people really know what's going on? And think about it from an employee standpoint. The employees, the actual human beings who are building the planes. How does the plane get built with? Metal. Well, with working with metal, you have to either weld it, burn it, trim it, machine it, chemically change it out. But we have to make sure we protect our employees. And some of those employees could be your mom, your dad, your brothers. And at the end of the day, we want to make sure that they go home safe. So we want to build an adequate plane by protecting the environment, keeping it up in the sky, not coming down, keeping it safe, and making sure that the people who build it are safe as well.
Awesome. And then so currently at Lockheed Martin, what do your day-to-day responsibilities look like, and what's an average day at work for you?
Whew, that varies. It has changed a lot due to COVID. And as an EHS, like I'm part of like senior management division, so I'm not always out on the floor as much. I have other engineers that will do that for me, but I do really try to be out there. I don't like to sit at my desk all the time. I've always said I could never get a job where my job is to sit at my desk, at my computer all day, every day. I just can't do it. I can't. I have the jitters. So the nice thing about the environmental health and safety world is you can actually be 86 to 90% out on the floor. That can be outside on the construction side, that can be on the manufacturing floor, that can be on flight line working with the planes, the pilots, and other engineers. Every day it varies, and every day I pick a new topic. So maybe on Monday I want to focus all on environmental, so I'll work all environmental The next day I'll do safety. The next day I'll do ergonomics. The next day I do manufacturing process. It really does vary. However, we do have emergencies that come up all the time. So I could be missing a meeting right now, and I do have my two phones because I'm part of the emergency operations team. They can instantly call me and say, Paulina, we've had a spill of hydrofluoric acid. What do we do? Okay, I'm technically like your chemist. This is what hydrofluoric acid is. Make sure you have the right PPE. Make sure you contain it. You enclose it. You fill out the right paperwork to dispose and contain into a different area, and making sure that nobody is hurt. That's always number one. If somebody is hurt, we want to make sure that we notify the following physicians, provide the right SDS, the safety data sheets, and letting them know the potential hazards by looking at that concentration of chemicals. I know it sounds like a lot, but I promise it's really fun. It's really, really, really fun.
Okay, and then just going back to like school and how people can kind of get started in it. I know you went into school wanting journalism. So what did you ultimately graduate with, and what are like the different degrees that you can
Mhm.
pursue to get into the field?
Yeah, so my degree I got on my undergrad was in environmental occupational health and science. I did a double major and industrial hygiene. I'm currently finishing up my master's program, my graduate program in occupational health and safety with a tie-in with safety management. So if someone's interested in going into the EHS world, you can go into that type of realm if your university offers that: occupational health safety, environmental engineering. They'll also have environmental occupational health. Some will have industrial hygiene. Not all universities have a direct focus in that. So a lot of times they're tied in with civil engineering. You're going to see civil engineering and then a branch over with environmental. Sometimes a lot of public health departments or pharmaceutical companies, not companies, but pharmaceutical universities will have a tie-in related to occupational health and safety or industrial hygiene or ergonomics. So there's different ways to get into it. But even if you do not focus in one of those type of degrees, that's okay. My best advice is if this is something you're passionate about, something you're really interested in doing, maybe you're a biology major, a chemistry major, a physics major, or civil engineering, you just want a change of routine, a change of career, you can totally get into it. There's different ways on how you can get your foot in the door. And at the end of the day, I've always said it, just like our last speaker, you have to have that passion. If you have that passion, you can make anything happen.
Mhm. And so, like another thing, I guess, like if you're like a biology major or whatever, one way that I think that you could get started in a different field is through an internship or like a
Mhm.
practical experience. Do you have any tips for like where to look to find
Yeah.
internships in?
Yeah, internships, co-ops are great. I highly, highly recommend, you know what, in the era of COVID, and we can work from our laptops, get on LinkedIn, get on Instagram, get on Twitter, get on Facebook. I highly recommend reaching out to those who are already in the professional field that maybe you're interested in. So for example, maybe you do want to work at Lockheed Martin. Maybe you don't want to be an EHS engineer. That's okay. But this is your time to reach out to me. I do work with other engineers. So maybe if you provided me your resume, your contact information, let me see who I can talk to, who I can provide that application to. If you're someone who is interested in environmental health and safety, again, you can talk to myself and you can talk to other groups. Again, networking is key. When you go on LinkedIn, I highly recommend is reaching out to recruiters. Don't always assume that recruiters are going to reach out to you. If there's a job that you want, whether it's NASA, Lockheed, Boeing, maybe you want to work at Sephora, wherever you want to work, reach out to the recruiter, do a kind introduction. Google has beautiful templates on how you can talk to the recruiter, provide them a copy of your resume, a cover letter, and a brief statement of who you are. You're seeking new opportunities, and they'll go ahead and respond back with either I'm not looking right now, maybe in the future we'll hold on to your information, or you know what, hey, we're hiring. Can you do a phone call? When are you available? Putting your best foot forward and showing action is actually great. Recruiters love that.
Awesome. And then, so that's great advice to anyone that's looking to get started and looking for internships and all that kind of stuff. And then, so on, in terms of like the field itself,
Mhm.
what aspects of the job to you are like, what do you like the most about it, and what do you hate about it?
So one of the things that I love most about environmental health and safety is that I have to work with people. I like working with people. I'm a people person. If you don't like working with people, I highly do not recommend this job. And that's okay. There's some people who just don't like that. You have to be very hands on because remember, you're dealing with a lot of people on encouraging them to change their habits. A lot of time on a manufacturing site, you're going to have someone who says, I've worked here for 20 years and I've been doing it like this and nothing bad has ever happened. Well, there's a new sheriff in town. You got to change their mindset. You got to change their dynamic, their way of thinking, that safety culture, because we want to make sure that everybody gets a great productivity, great quality of work, but in a safe environment. So you have to be very patient. You have to be very understanding, and you also have to be a team player. I work with many different engineers, so that's very important. That's key. If you're an individual who works better alone and you're stronger alone, there are different opportunities in the environmental health and safety world for that, like an environmental aspect, because you're normally individually doing stormwater sampling outside, doing any type of other air quality control sampling. It's great. So the nice thing, you can kind of fit and mold to whatever you like. The thing that I would say dislike is I don't like that there's not enough girls, enough women in the field. I would love to see more women in the field. When I first started, it was a big eye opener. I'm the only woman of color in the majority of the jobs that I've worked at, the youngest one, the only one. And I want to see more women. I would love to have that relationship and see that there and that diversity and that representation.
Okay, so we know a little bit about how like EHS engineers and consultants work at your current role. How does it play in like you had the construction industry, chemical manufacturing, life science? You want to talk a little bit about your experiences in those?
Yeah, so my very first job as soon as I graduated college was a safety consultant working in agricultural and horticultural. So what's the difference? Agricultural is food, horticultural is plants. So again, let's go back to when I first started college. I just wanted to travel the world. Well, this job was perfect because I got the opportunity to travel the world. As a safety consultant, I was in a new city, a new state, every week, eating new foods, meeting new people, but applying the right engineering aspects to my clients and providing them the right keys that they needed. It was really a wonderful opportunity because not only did I get to use what I learned in school, but then I got to do it in a different language. So Spanish is my first language. So I got to do everything engineering and science is Spanish. And if any of you speak a second language, you will know very quickly that translating, federal regulatory terminology in that other language is quite difficult. You think you may know the language very well when you speak at home, and then you're like, wait, how do you say that word? So I learned a lot of new words myself in Spanish. Like, for example, forklift is montecarga. I never knew that. I would have said el forklift, but these are things that you learn as you're in the field. And when I jumped into the chemical manufacturing world, I really loved it. I moved to the Bay Area, the Mecca and the home of engineers there in Sunnyvale, the Silicon Valley. And it was a really great opportunity for me to also grow as an engineer. That same week that I got hired, my boss got fired. And I thought to myself, I just moved here. Like, this is really weird. I hope they don't fire me. But if anything, that was a great opportunity for me to prove to the team and prove to the directors that, hey, I need to up it. I need to, survival of the fittest. And being there in the Bay Area, I ran 3 sites. I ran our site in Sunnyvale, North Carolina, and Oregon. And I was a brand new engineer. So I went from an entry engineer to a senior engineer very quickly. Having that title change, I will tell you this right now, is really key and really important in your career. You might not have your pay grade always go up, but that title change is really important because when you go to the next job, that's what follows you. So that was really helpful when I moved to my next job in aerospace, showing that, hey, I'm already a senior engineer. I know they were kind of like, how is she a senior? But trust me, I'm a senior. And by the time I got there, that was my time and my opportunity to kind of show them why I am a senior level engineer and why I have the position and the title that I do and how you carry yourself and how you work dynamically with the team. So either way, from an environmental health and safety aspect, whatever field that you work in, your job, you're going to essentially kind of do the same thing: protect the environment, protect the safety of the employees, and protect the neighborhood and communities around you. But you get to see it from different points of eyes and views and perspectives. And it's just essentially really, really fun.
Awesome. So if any of you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat and I can ask them. In the
Thank you.
meantime, I can ask another question. What's one of the biggest challenges in the field of EHS right now?
Ooh, right now, our biggest thing is COVID. I would say my whole entire career life has flipped upside down and changed into COVID. I'm the COVID nurse, it feels like, because again, it falls into occupational health. So normally I would do a lot more engineering controls, but now with COVID going on, they always have questions like, okay, what's the right PPE? What PPE should we be wearing and what shouldn't be wearing? How long should I wear this PPE? Or other things, if there's an employee who does contract COVID, how long should they be quarantined? Who do we listen to, the federal, the state, or the city? So it's almost becoming like an engineer and a lawyer right now. I do enjoy it. I do love it. I can't wait for COVID to be over, but at the same time, I have to practice what I preach and what I tell my employees. At the end of the day, be safe, practice your social distancing, wash your hands, please wear your mask, and we all have to be in the same fight together.
Yeah, and so we have a question from Alex. What was the learning curve like going from an entry-level engineer to a senior engineer?
Ooh, so that's a good one. So I learned very quickly that as an entry level engineer, you tend to be very much more hands on. Like you're almost kind of like would call it like the coffee runner. Like you're in the meetings, you're doing everything for everybody else. It'd be like Paulina, do this, Paulina, do that, Paulina, go get that. Okay, cool. Once you're a senior level engineer, you're gonna get engineers assigned to you, and then those engineers you'll get maybe like 3 or 4, you will give them those tasks. But you also have to remember you need to train your engineers very well because those engineers are going to be a representation of you. So if your engineers messed up, you mess up, right? It's a team effort. So you have to make sure that you are patient, you take the time to work with your engineers and work with the other departments that you have to work with to complete your projects and tasks. Another thing with the senior engineer that I learned that was different compared to an entry level engineer, kind of, I guess, a little challenging, is that when you get entry level engineers coming into work for you, a lot of times they only have a school background. They don't have any work experience. And school and work can be very different. So I always recommend when you're doing that transition to do maybe like a shadowing. Have that entry level engineer shadow other engineers for 30 days. Like, hey, you're going to go work with the civil department for 30 years. You're going to work with manufacturing for 30 days. Just that way they can learn and see. And it's also a really great way as a new fresh eyes coming out of college to see how those different departments work, right? That's really important.
And we do have a question from Peter. Might be a sensitive subject. I'm interested in working as a co-op student at Lockheed Martin, but I'm unsure on the ethics side of working for a weapons company. What is your perspective, if I may ask?
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that you asked. So Lockheed Martin, they have different sectors. So they have rotary and missiles, they have space, they have aeronautics, they have all different, sectors. So that's number one. You can pick whatever one you want. Number two, we do work for Department of Defense, and I totally understand this question because I personally felt the same way. But you're going to have to think of it from different perspectives and different programs. So with Lockheed Martin, you do have different programs. You'll have specific programs, maybe for Department of Defense and military, and then you have programs more for NASA and sustainability. So that's like my program. I work alongside a lot with NASA, and I work a lot with our Go Green projects on how we can actually protect and make those new changes and new innovation controls for a Go Green aspect for aerospace. I know sometimes aerospace can have that bad reputation. So it's my job as an EHS engineer to be on top of them and be on top of upper management and say, hey, look, I know you want to work for Department of Defense. This is what you're doing, but what are we doing to contribute to our world? We have to still protect our planet, and you're working alongside with NASA with some of our space projects. So that's on my end. But just know that there are so many different programs once you get in, once your foot's in the door, you will actually be given those options. Because I actually did that and talked about it during my interview. And my hiring manager was super kind, super understandable. They totally were, were like, okay, no worries. We do have different programs you can select from. So just keep that in mind.
Okay. So how would you describe the company culture at Lockheed?
So the company culture, and again, this is different for every site facility. Everyone is different, but at my site facility and my group. We have 27 engineers and everyone's really cool. And maybe because it's California and it's like Los Angeles County, so it is going to be different compared to different states, I'd say. But everyone is very, very friendly. Everyone's very cool. Everyone is, again, I work on the environmental side, so everyone's pro the environment, save the planet type of mindset. I haven't had any trouble, honestly. I know in previous facilities or previous companies, I've had some challenges, some obstacles. So far so good. I'm really, really happy with where I'm at.
Alrighty. And so how did you gain the confidence, especially as a minority of the majority, to get where you are at now?
This is a good question because when I first started in STEM, I was not so confident. I was actually quite shy. I didn't really speak up. I knew the answers when people would ask a question in the meeting room. I knew what to say. I knew what to say. I just didn't want to talk because I just felt intimidated. So that just came with time. Honestly, it just comes with time. You have to remember that you deserve to be in that room. You deserve all those sacrifices, crying over chem, physics, cal, whatever the case may be. You deserve to be in a room where decisions are being made. That's something I have to just remind myself and constantly tell myself. Also, don't be scared to be wrong. Okay. I can't tell you how many times I would raise my hand and I would be really nervous because I would think, oh, I'm going to say something dumb or maybe that's wrong. And they're just going to look at me because they've been in the field for 25 years and I'm a new engineer. No, it's okay to be wrong. It's okay. You're learning. And these are a great opportunity to get things wrong because once you get it wrong and you get the right answer, you'll never forget. Trust me, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I remember that one time. So think of it like that.
Okay. And so from Shania, what are some of the experiences and events that helped in shaping the way you are today?
So I would definitely say is making sure you have the right support group, whether it's your friends or your family. Again, coming from myself as a first generation Latina, I didn't have that really at home. I didn't have people to talk to about STEM or talk to about my struggles at work, being the only female or the youngest one there. No one understood that with me at home. But I started making friends via social media or on LinkedIn, networking. And from there, I could talk to those individuals and say, hey, you're a female in this aerospace world. How did you handle that? How did you go through this? And that's really, really important. I have to completely emphasize a lot with mental health. Many STEM students, we tend to forget that we're on this go, 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 go path. And we forget, you know what, at the end of the day, our mental health does come first. We have to take care of ourselves mentally, physically, spiritually, so we can be a great STEM engineer, biologist, future doctor, whatever the case may be. So finding that right support group.
And so what's one piece of advice that you would give to yourself when you were in university? Like if you could go back and give yourself a piece of advice, what would it be?
I have a long list, but one of them would be is don't doubt yourself. And I have my days still as a senior level engineer. Sometimes I doubt myself. Don't doubt yourself. You have to just always remember. They even tell you this when you're taking a test, right? When you're on your Scantron, they always say the first letter that you're going to bubble in is probably most likely going to be the right answer, but then you second guess yourself and you're like, let me change that to B. Don't doubt yourself. And again, if you get it wrong, it's okay. Once you're in the career world or once you leave university, you're going to make mistakes. It's going to be okay. Own those mistakes. Show ownership because that shows leadership, and then do a corrective action and fix it because that, again, is going to show that senior level of determination of leadership engineer that you are.
Awesome. I think that's really good advice. Yeah. And so from Naomi, when we're a new engineer working with experienced engineers, how how did you get there by when proposing a new idea to the team?
Oh, let me read this one more time. When you're new engineers. Oh, okay. So working with other engineers, so this is really key. When you're working with different engineers, like civil engineers, quality engineers, manufacturing engineers, as a new engineer coming into those meetings, what I would definitely bring to the table is bring your notebook, bring your pen, bring your ideas. Don't give all your ideas at once, okay? Remember this because there will be other engineers who want to take your ideas. Give your ideas, give a few, listen, around the table, let everybody go, and then bounce back with ideas. Not everybody's going to like your ideas. There's been many times where I've suggested things and nope, we don't like it. That's okay. Another thing to remember in the workplace, don't take it personal. Your next idea, put it in your back pocket and pull it out for later. I promise it will be used. It's just not probably meant to be used right now, but it will work.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any other questions? If you want to ask your question yourself, just go ahead, turn on your mic, and you can ask.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we're waiting for a question or two.
And thank you for having me here today. I really appreciate it. It's raining really hard back here.
We've got blue skies today, which is
I'm jealous.
it's a surprise for sure. Let me just go through the doc and see if I missed any questions. How difficult is it to find a job as an EHS engineer?
Actually, not difficult at all. With COVID going on, we're hiring a lot everywhere, actually. So the best way to get a job in EHS is going through LinkedIn, or there's actually agencies. There's an agency called Shirley Patterson, and I can provide you guys with the information. And their job, it's for free. It's a recruiting agency. You give them your name, first name, resume, let them know the area code that you want to work in. And this is global. This is not just for the United States. This is all around the world. So you let them know the location that you're interested in. And, you can give them a quick introduction saying, hey, I want to work maybe in pharmaceutical, or I want to work in construction, or I want to work in space industry. And then this agency will go ahead and look out for different companies and then reach out to you and say, hey, this is what came up. The thing with working with an agency, though, is you just have to remember you're going to go a little back and forth with your compensation range. So you'll just have to negotiate a little bit, making sure that you still get your right pay rate that you want. But yes, it's pretty easy because the jobs are out there. The market is out there. What's challenging is getting the people to come to our side to do it. I know because it is a small niche and a lot of people don't know about environmental health and safety. This is that opportunity to learn about it like today. And if you're interested in doing something new, try it. Try it for 1 year. And if you don't like it, you can go back to something else. I've always said that.
Okay, and a question from Mohammed, would Arduino be an important aspect in most parts of engineering regardless of the field?
Let me see. No, so when you're working, let me read that one more time. I think, is it Peter's question? Would you recommend applying online for Lockheed Martin? Is that
Mohammed.
Oh, okay. Can you mind reading that for me one more time?
Yeah. Would Arduino be an important aspect in most parts of engineering, regardless of the field?
No. So when you're for applications for environmental health and safety, what I would recommend, and when you're in that field, well, specifically for the ESH world, is go through LinkedIn, go through the agency, provide them the knowledge or background that you have. Even if you don't have necessarily a civil engineering, environmental engineering, aerospace engineering background, whatever company you want to work for, let the agency do the work for you. I can't tell you how many times when I got into the field, I didn't have certain knowledge or certain understanding, certain things or backgrounds for that job. But I guess I could say this now, like the United States, our previous president, sometimes you just have to apply for a job and you'll never know. You just might get it, right? So just go for it.
Awesome. And so from Peter, would you recommend applying online for Lockheed Martin or reaching out to people like yourself? I see the deadline for applications are often next year for co-op positions. And is that a rolling application or?
Yeah, so co-ops happen all the time. So in that situation, I would recommend still apply online, and then you can reach out to myself or any LM or Lockheed employee. The reason being is when you reach out to us and we send it to the recruiter, like in our department, to say, oh, hey, so-and-so applied, can you check on their status? The first thing HR and the recruiting agency is going to tell me is, did they apply online? Apply online. If you're going to send me your information or send another employee your information, the best thing to do is send them the co-op general information number, because that's what I need. I would need a copy of the resume, That way, when I provide it to the HR office recruiting agency, they don't have to go on a massive search hunt, because who knows, there might be multiple people with your name. That way they can just do a quick search. But yes, still apply online, still go for it. And then you can also send it to someone who's in the Lockheed department.
And then we have a question from Alex. What should I be doing now as a student to get into EHS?
So what I would really recommend is, for sure, if you can, take all your math and sciences, learn chemistry. I do a lot of chemistry. Luckily, I really do enjoy chemistry, but there is a lot of chemistry in the environmental health and safety world, because we work with a lot of chemicals, and it doesn't matter from what aspect, whether you're doing construction, whether you're doing pharma or aerospace, because we do reviews and inventory of a lot of SDSs, which are safety data sheets. So we work with inventory controls for those chemicals. So even if you're not the best at chemistry, still have a really good, at least basic fundamental. Another thing, what I would recommend right now, if you're interested in maybe the ESH world, start looking for those internships. Start reaching out to those professionals and asking, hey, can I do a shadow? Can I shadow you? I know with COVID it is a little difficult, but in the past I've had young engineers in high school and in college reach out to me and say, hey, do you mind, can I shadow you for a day? And at my last aerospace site, I would welcome it. I actually had a student shadow me for an entire day. They were a senior level in high school, and I just got to show them around our site facility, give them a tour. This is what I do. This is kind of a day in the life of an ESH engineer. And that way they can kind of take that back with them. Also, what I'd recommend is on YouTube, there's a really good YouTube video that's called What is an Industrial Hygienist? And it's a really seven-minute video, very fast. And it just tells you a really nice little application of what the world of an environmental health safety engineer, industrial hygienist does. So that's a really nice little video.
Okay. Any other questions? What's the difference between an industrial hygienist and an EHS engineer?
Yeah, so an industrial hygienist is someone who does a lot of monitoring, versus an EHS engineer is doing more engineering applications. So for example, as the industrial hygienist, when I need to take air samples, so we work with a lot of chrome because we do spray painting. So I will have to put like monitors on employees or monitors in surrounding areas to do capture control to make sure that we do not go over the permissible exposure limits for that chemical like chrome. As the ESH engineer, my job is to work more on engineering controls on how can we eliminate using chrome, and how can we work with different types of chemicals that might work with chrome the same way, but without those hazards. So the only difference is one does more monitoring, one does a little bit more engineering. So the industrial hygienist will do the monitoring, pull the data, pull the reporting, give it to the ESH engineer, and the ESH engineer kind of fixes the problem. So essentially I can do both, and I do both. But that's why we have a large team, because I have specialists who do this and then some that do that, and we work together pretty well.
Okay. And so how would an environmental consultant get into the field that you are in?
Yeah, so we hire consultants all the time, and a lot of environmental consultants work already in relations to the ESH world. So if you're an environmental consultant, definitely just apply to any environmental health and safety job, industrial hygiene job. Again, they go back and forth with different titles. Sometimes they're also called a HSC or a SHE, safety, health, environmental. As an environmentalist, I know for here in California, it's our first rain. When we have our first rain, this is really big important for us for taking sampling for stormwater. So as an environmentalist, it's great because you already have that knowledge, you already have that background, you already have some of that useful tools for us that we have to then provide in certain industries, whether it's like Lockheed, construction, and so on. So yeah, just apply.
Awesome. Alrighty, just waiting on any questions if anyone has any.
So far, the questions are really good. Thank you.
Yeah, so do you need a particular certification in the field?
So to be an ESH engineer, yes and no. You can have one, but you don't have to have one. The same thing, like some students may say, you don't need a master's degree, but it looks good to have a master's degree. So in the ESH engineer world, I should say, we go for a CSP. So a CSP is a certified safety professional. It's equivalent to a PhD or equivalent to a PE for other engineers. So currently I'm studying towards my CSP. Not anyone can get a CSP because you have to have a minimum of 5 years experience. You have to have a Bachelor of Science from accredited university. You have to have 50% of experience within the ESH world. You know, there's certain things and criteria that you have to meet before you take this exam, 200 question exam. And on this exam, it's a lot of chemistry, math, ventilation controls, just different applications of what you've already been doing out in the field. Again, it's a certified safety professional, but it's so great to have because it's recognized globally. It's not a state thing, but it's all around the world. So that license that you get to have, you have to do continuing education to keep it. And there's multiple certifications, from a certified industrial hygienist, a CIH. You could do a CHMM, a certified hazard materials manager. And there's different applications, again, for different fields. So what I would recommend, number one, is focus. What do you want to do? Do you want to focus more in environmental? Do you want to focus more in chemical? Do you want to focus more in industry? Because there's plenty of certifications and licenses, but there's no point in making yourself go crazy and going out for every single one when maybe the job that you have doesn't even care for it, right? Don't stress yourself out. But if you're someone who's maybe like me and you want to do it for the glory and you want to have more initials by your name, go for it. Hey, don't let anything stop you.
And so is there other like professional development opportunities within the field, like other than this certifications that you just mentioned?
Yeah, so you could do, I've done many of these, from conferences to seminars, from certifications to licenses to continuing education. You can further this in your career with a master's if you want to go maybe a PhD route. Once you're in the ESH world per se, to say, when you have these seminars or conferences, it's actually recommended that as an ESH professional, you do go to them. The ESH world is a pretty small community, so we all know each other, and it's highly recommended. And plus, it helps with your certifications. So mind you have certifications and licenses. Certifications, I have, I think, 10 under my belt, and I have 1 license right now, and I'm working towards another. Again, you don't need them, but it's great to have.
Okay. And then another question from Peter. I understand that Lockheed Martin does have a Canada base, but would you know if there are any hoops or issues that we might encounter while applying from Canada?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure, so I probably wouldn't be the best to answer it. But I don't mind looking into it for you. So if you want to send me an email, you can go ahead. On Mondays, I tend to be my slower days at work, and I always have students reach out to me and say, hey, are you hiring? And I will just reach out to the recruiter, give them your first name, your last name, your email, and say, here you go, help. And I think, honestly, that is the best way, because I remember getting into Lockheed. A quick story in the back end is I applied to Lockheed over 25 times, and I did not get in. And many people told me that I would never be able to work at NASA or Lockheed because I didn't have anyone in aerospace. I didn't know anyone in aerospace. I didn't come from an aerospace group. But honestly, the best thing to do is apply, and don't you dare give up. Anything is possible. I mean, sometimes I'm still shocked when I sit in my office.
Okay, and then we also have a question from Naomi. This might be a sensitive topic, but when negotiating your base salary with the hiring manager, do you have any tips on how to do that to get a salary that we want?
Yes, I love this question. Money question is a great question. So when it comes to negotiation, I remember my very first job, I was underpaid and overworked, and that is what's going to happen to all of you. Trust me, you're going to learn this very quickly. So listen to me when I say this. Right now, when we're done with this meeting, create an Excel spreadsheet. On this Excel spreadsheet, I want you to list all of your projects that you've done in school or in your current work right now that has shown an improvement or an impact to the business or to your university. So for example, maybe you're doing an environmental impact on sustainability impacts. Maybe you're doing a Go Green project, a reduce, reuse, recycle project, whatever the project may be. Put it on the Excel spreadsheet, and I want you to create a new tab for every year. And this will do this for the rest of your career. The reason being is once you have your job and it's time to negotiate your pay raise, when you sit with me, the hiring manager, I want to know, okay, as an engineer, what did you complete today? What did you complete your overall task for the 1 year? What current projects do you have open? What current projects did you close? But remember, at the end of the day, it's still a business. Yes, we're STEM majors and we're engineers at heart, but it's still a business. How and what did you bring as the engineer to the business to contribute? You kind of want to sell yourself, right? So I want to say, hey, Paulina, I created an ergonomic program from zero all the way to the top. I was able to reduce injury loss. I was able to reduce company costs, and I was able to prevent injury by such and such such. By that, we saved the company this amount of money. Remember, your overhead, you are a paycheck to them pretty much. You're that overhead. Tell them and show them why you do reserve that pay raise. When you show them that spreadsheet of your project, and trust me, managers we smile because we like it. If you show this to your boss, we might giggle, but it's because you took the time to do that. Now, if your boss or your hiring manager or supervisor, for whatever reason, because I understand we have budgets, they might say, hey, at this time, we're not going to be doing that pay raise or whatever the case may be. That's okay. Still put away your spreadsheet, put it in your back pocket, save it for later. At that point, then it's your choice to then make that decision if you want to still continue with the company or wait for your next, opportunity. But I always, and this is based on an individual, I remember when I started my job, I gave myself 6 months. In 6 months, I made a little goal for myself. Okay, once I reach that goal, make another one, do it in increments, 6 months, 6 months, 6 months. If I'm not getting a promotion, if I'm not getting a pay raise, if I'm not getting some sort of bonus or an increase within those 6 months period, because remember, you're doing a lot of work, you need to then reevaluate your position and your work environment. Maybe that just not might be the right job for you.
Thank you so much. I think that's really valuable information. Um, yeah. And do you have any like stories about specific projects that you worked on that you could share? Like
Yeah.
either at Lockheed Martin or in any of your other past jobs?
Yeah, so one of my favorite ones was I call it the wet saw enclosure project. So at my last aerospace site, as a manufacturing site, we work with a lot of heavy machinery. So this is a wet saw machine. The wet saw machine is pretty much cutting sheet metal and tube metals in a high pressured with water and heat application. Well, in the fabrication room, these two machines, when they're cutting the metal, it has a lot of debris and particulates in the air. All the employees are smelling that. And a lot of employees kept coming up to me saying, Paulina, I'm going home with a bloody nose. I'm going home with a headache because I'm smelling all of the metal. Well, that's not right. Nobody should ever go home with a bloody nose or a headache, right? And then the other thing was when I look at the HEPA filters, the capture for the ventilation was filthy. It was dirty. And I thought to myself, okay, maybe we can clean up the filters. Maybe we need to change something. This was a new project. I really didn't even know what to do. So the first thing to do is I had to do an investigation report. Now, just like with any company, you're going to run into this. They're going to look at you as an engineer and say, fix it, do it, but we don't have any money. Okay, this is going to be great. So now I have to fix a problem with zero money. So you as an engineer are going to have to come up with the idea. So in this case, as the wet saw enclosure project, the first thing I did was we need to change the HEPA filter. We need to have a better capture and pull release. We need to have a PM, a preventative maintenance, and have a continuing clean out for that ventilation. And we need to also protect our employees, make sure send them over to medical and make sure that they don't have any bronchial problems or any health effects being exposed to all of these health hazards. So of course, number one, all employees were good. All employees were safe. So that was great. That's the biggest thing out of everything. But now I went ahead and created a preventative maintenance, enclosed the whole entire machine. The machine was left open so all the fumes can go out. And so I worked with a contractor to enclose the machine with thin sheet metal and to have door access so the operators can still go into the machine and work with it. I worked hands-on with the operators. I worked hands-on with facilities. I worked hands-on with contractors. A project that should have took me a year to complete, I was able to do it in 6 months. Granted, I worked weekends and I worked holidays, but I was able to complete it in 6 months. Within that 6-month period, that project that I completed, I was able to show to the company that I was able to produce production and make them more money and more revenue because we didn't have to stop and lose our machines or put the machines down for work. I was able to get it running. And I was able to show that 2 employees who were having the health effects, the health hazards, were safe. At the end of the day, we can build new machines, we can build new pieces. But imagine if one of those employees came back with something dangerous, maybe bronchitis, asthma, whatever the case may be, but they came back after medical screening healthy. They are also now in a medical program with the company. They can have continuous checkups to make sure that they are going to stay healthy with the company, which was great. That was another thing. I wanted to make sure that they were going to continue doing that with them. So on that end, the company was very happy because no company wants to stop work and no company wants to have you as the engineer make the call and say, we can't do it because she said so. No, we were able to meet all customer needs. We were having great work. Everyone's healthy, and in 6 months. So I was president of Crazy Town, but it was a wonderful project to be a part of.
Awesome. So from Alex, what are important traits to have to get into the field or career?
So I definitely recommend when you're working or trying to have working within the ESH community, again, team dynamic. I work a lot with other engineers, and you have to be really open-minded. You have to understand different departments have different needs. From an ESH standpoint, I'm always going to look from a safety aspect and environmental aspect, but I also have to be mindful from a production aspect. Production has this mindset of work, 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 work. We cannot stop. You have to be strong enough and have to be, bold enough to say no. That's a big word. When you have to sometimes tell even the CEO, no. There has been times where I've actually had to tell my own boss and my own CEO, no, I'm going to shut down work. Why? Because I am telling you as a scientist that there is going to be a health effect here. Someone will get hurt. There will be a problem, right? That's your job because you're the engineer, you're the scientist. You did the research and the study behind that, project, that work, and you can already foresee, the incident that's going to happen. That's your job to make that call. I feel a lot of times, sometimes people don't like to say no. A lot of times people will just be a yeser and say, oh, we'll just go with whatever the CEO makes. But a good ESH engineer is someone who will stand up and speak up and support their team and looking out for others.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. What is something you wish you knew before getting into EHS?
Ooh, that's a good question. I guess I wish I would have known that they do not make a lot of PPE for women. So I remember my first steel toe boots, I had to buy them in the little boy section, I think at like Sears. Yeah, kind of sucks. And even all of the construction hats and the vests that I get, they mostly come in men's sizes. So I always look like I'm drowning in my clothes, but that you make do with it.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. We are nearing the end of our time slot. So if anyone has any questions, it's your last chance to get them out. Yeah. Guess we wait and see if there's a few more questions.
Yeah, and please feel free to share my email. I can put my email in the chat box to anyone who does have questions. Again, like even if you're maybe not interested in environmental health and safety, but maybe more or less interested in Lockheed Martin, trying to get your foot in the door, maybe looking for a co-op or internship, go ahead and send me that email and I will do my best on Monday. Once again, I just need your first and last name, your resume, and I can send it over to our hiring manager or our recruiter agency. I know she hates me, but I do this to her all the time, but I keep her busy. So I'll leave it in here.
Alrighty then, I guess we will call it there. So thank you so much, Paulina, for coming out and sharing your time with us and giving us all this very valuable information. We really enjoyed having you here. And also thank you to everyone that is here, our audience, for coming out, asking questions, engaging, and yeah. And thanks to, yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you so much all for having me, and thank you for bringing in the questions. I really, really appreciate it. I hope you guys all continue to stay safe and healthy. I'm not sure how COVID's over there, but it's still hitting us hard. So I hope all of you guys just stay healthy and safe.
Oh, and so for anyone who's curious if they want to refer back to this because I did record it. It will be on our YouTube channel sometime during the next week. And our YouTube channel is just STEM Fellowship SFU. Okay.